Chris Massey, and welcome to the Chris Massey Football Show here on the American Hearts Radio Network. We're coming to you live tonight from our Chisel Multimedia studio here in Smyrna, Georgia. What a college football weekend we had this past weekend. Every season in college football, there's always a week where the top 10 teams go down. And you wouldn't have thought it would have been this past weekend because we did not have any top 25 matchups on the board. So let's take a look at what happened. Auburn, ranked number 10, went down to LSU. Now this one is probably not that big of a surprise. This is a bitter rivalry, and it's always a tight game. Washington State, man, they got blown out by California. I don't think anybody saw that happening. The Washington Huskies were defeated by, well, let's just say it, a mediocre Arizona State team. But the big one happened Friday night when the Clemson Tigers fell to the Syracuse Orangemen. Now, I'm just going to tell you right now, you will not find a worse coaching job in Division I football all season than the job that Dabo Swinney and his staff did in that ball game. For starters, their quarterback, Kelly Bryant, was put into the game, and it was obvious from the get-go this guy was not 100%. The announcers were saying it. People watching him were saying it. I'm going to say his mobility at best was at 70%, but they put him out there anyway. What they should have done is during practice, they should have known this guy couldn't go. They should have put in the second-string quarterback, game planned with him all week, let him take reps with the first team, got him out there, and I think the results would have been much better. But Dabo Swinney and his staff had such little respect for the Syracuse Orangemen that they thought they could send their starting quarterback out there not at 100% and win the ball game, and they were wrong. Now let me tell you, when a coaching staff doesn't take a team seriously, how do you expect your players to do it? And it was obvious that that was going on. Clemson never led in this game, and this is against Syracuse, a team that was beaten at home by Middle Tennessee State. Middle Tennessee State opened up the season against Vanderbilt and were beaten 28-6. This is the defending national champion, undefeated, ranked number 2, in some polls ranked number 1. It's just unbelievable that they could lose this game to Syracuse. But losing the game really wasn't the worst thing that happened here. Clemson still has time to regroup. If they win out the rest of their games, they can win the ACC championship and get into the playoff. The worst thing that happened was the injury to starting quarterback Kelly Bryant. Okay, this guy could not move. He couldn't even move fast enough to defend himself. And what happens? Couldn't protect himself. He goes down on the turf with a concussion. He should not have been on the field to start with. Dabo Swinney, if I was Kelly Bryant's parents, I would have been waiting for you at your office when you got back to Clemson, wanting to know why in the hell you had my kid in that game when he was obviously injured and now he suffered a concussion that did not need to happen. I tell you what, Coach Swinney and the Clemson Tigers, you better respect Georgia Tech when they come to town in a week and a half. When we get back, we'll talk about those Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets.
Serving Atlanta since 1998, Massey Gutters understands the challenges specific to our area. Massey Gutters is familiar with all aspects of gutters and roofing. We use only the highest quality materials. With our fully trained and professional staff, you are guaranteed to get quality service and work. References available upon request. Call us today for a free estimate. 314-6800. Again, that's 404-314-6800. Call Massey Gutters today. 404-314-6800.
All right, we're back. Paul Johnson's Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, since our last show last month, has taken on Pittsburgh, University of North Carolina, and the Miami Hurricanes. Georgia Tech took care of Pittsburgh and UNC just like we thought they would. They had a week off, and then they traveled down to face Mark Richt's Miami Hurricanes, a top 10 team, by the way, the Miami Hurricanes are. They go into this game at 3-1, and they lose this game 25-24. Georgia Tech is 3-2 and have 2 losses where they lost each game by 1 point. They could have easily won both of them. In this Miami game, they gave up a 4th and 10. Unbelievable play by the Hurricanes. You got to give them credit. And they kicked the winning field goal, and Georgia Tech is now 3-2 and 2-1 in the ACC. Now, I still believe in this Georgia Tech team. I still think they're going to beat some teams that they're not supposed to beat. This Saturday night, they've got the Wake Forest Deacon Demons coming into Bobby Dodge Stadium for homecoming. I think Georgia Tech is going to take care of this team. I really do. Then they travel to Clemson. Now, Clemson, of course, has got the week off, so they can get ready for that triple option. Georgia Tech is going to give Clemson all they want. And I tell you what, with some breaks, and if they can find somebody to make a play on defense, which they could not do against Tennessee or Miami, Georgia Tech could win this game. After that, the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets will face Virginia Tech, Virginia, and then Duke. And hard to believe when we come back for November's show, the college football season, regular season, will be just about done. Georgia Tech's offense continues to churn out the yardage, and their defense has been the big surprise this year. It's too bad that they could not make a play against Tennessee or Miami, or we could have a 5-0 Georgia Tech team, probably ranked around number 12 in the country, going into that game with Wake Forest this Saturday and with Clemson. So let's hope the Yellow Jackets are not looking ahead to the big game with Clemson, and they can take care of their business with Wake Forest. Clemson defeated Wake Forest 28-14 and didn't exactly blow them off the field. So the Jackets are going to have to come with their best game. It's going to be a festive atmosphere down there on the flats this Saturday night for homecoming. All right, when we come back, we're going to talk about those third-ranked Georgia Bulldogs. See you in a minute.
Hey everybody, Johnny Van Zandt from Leonard Skinner here. Hey, come sail the Caribbean on the Southern Rock Cruise with all of our good friends. Hey, and we'll meet you over in Jamaica and play some Skinner for you. God bless.
All right, we're back. On our last time we were on this show, the Georgia Bulldogs had won 2 games. They had beaten Appalachian State and they had beaten Samford. They were facing then a Mississippi State team that had just demolished LSU. Tennessee at Tennessee, which is always a tough game. Vanderbilt, a team that beat Georgia in Athens last year. And the University of Missouri, that is always a stingy game for the Bulldogs. And wow, what has happened? This Bulldog team has just exploded, beating Mississippi State 31-3, blanking the University of Tennessee 41-0, beating Vanderbilt 45-14, and this past Saturday night, taking care of Missouri 53-28. The Bulldogs are 7-0, ranked number 3 in the country behind Penn State and the University of Alabama. Now, I don't think anybody really saw this coming. The defense has just been spectacular. In the 7 games the Bulldogs have played, they have outscored their opponents 263-88. The only team in the country that has a better margin than that is the Alabama Crimson Tide, who has outscored their opponents in 7 games 299-71. I got to tell you, I've been a Georgia fan since 1971, and I have never seen a Georgia team dominate teams in the SEC like they're doing this year. I mean, it's just hard to believe that they have made this progress in just 1 year. But the Bulldogs are for real. Make no mistake about it. In this game against Missouri last week, for some reason, the running game had a hard time getting going at the beginning of the game, but they picked it up in the second half. And Jake Fromm was throwing the ball all over the field. He threw for over 300 yards. He did have 1 costly interception inside the red zone that led to a Missouri touchdown. But other than that, the kid played flawless. The Bulldogs also threw in about 300 and so yards of rushing, going for 696 total yards against the Missouri Tigers. So here's what we got. The Bulldogs are 7-0. They've got the week off this week, and then they travel to Jacksonville to face the Gators. The Gators were just beat this week by Texas A&M. They have 2 losses in the conference, one to LSU and the one that they just had to Texas A&M. Florida also has the week off. this week. Now, look, we got to be honest here. This is a game that the Bulldogs have not been able to win. Even if you go back to 2001, when the Georgia Bulldogs ended their season 13-1, ranked number 3 in the country, the only loss was to the Florida Gators, and Florida was not a great team that year. That was one of Ron Zook's teams. If we would have won that game, we would have been undefeated and might have had an opportunity to play for the national championship. So this game is crucial. I mean, the Bulldogs on paper, they should go down there and they should wipe the floor with Florida. They should. But we'll just have to see what happens. And if they do win that game in Jacksonville, though, and I think they will, the Dogs are going to have a lot of momentum, and they're going to need it because they're getting into the meat of their schedule now. After they play Florida, they come home and play a pesky South Carolina team that is 5-2. Then the big one, they travel over to Auburn. Auburn has 2 losses to Clemson and to LSU, and make no mistake about it, anytime Georgia and Auburn get together, it is always a dogfight. After that, they will come back home to play the University of Kentucky, who right now is 5-1, and they should have beat the Gators. Kentucky should be undefeated. Then they'll end the season, of course, with Georgia Tech. Now, every one of these teams has a maximum of 2 losses. They're all winning teams, and you cannot say that for the teams that Georgia has played early on this year. So is this going to be the year? Is this going to be the year the Bulldogs can make it to the SEC championship game, win the SEC, and get to the college football playoff? It's going to be tough, no doubt about it. I mean, when you're in the SEC East, you've got to beat Alabama to get to the college playoff. However, the way things are falling right now, if Georgia went undefeated, they got to the SEC championship game, and they played a tough Alabama team, and they played them tough with 1 loss, they still could get in to the playoff. The SEC still could have 2 teams to get in there. The way it's going, the Pac-10 looks like it's fell by the wayside. TCU is still hanging tough in the Big 12, and in the Big 10, Penn State is just getting into their meat of their schedule with Michigan, Ohio State, and Wisconsin. So anything can happen. So if you're a Bulldog fan right now, it is a very exciting time. Still, I don't think there's any controversy with Jacob Eason now. It's pretty much a foregone conclusion that Jake Fromm is the starting quarterback. But it is good to know that if Jake Fromm goes down, that we do have a backup that can come in there and have some playing experience, something that Clemson did not have in that game against Syracuse last Friday night. So I'm looking for the Bulldogs to roll. We'll see. Not this week, but next Saturday, October the 29th, when they travel to Jacksonville to face the Florida Gators. What's wrong with the Atlanta Falcons? We'll talk about it when we come back.
It's Leon Smoker with Rachel Jordan.
Hey, man, I really appreciate you picking me up, man.
How do you not have any food at your house?
Well, you know, man, I meant to get some the other night when I went out to buy some weed, and I guess I just forgot.
Well, what do you want?
I don't care, man.
Burger Deluxe?
Yeah, that's cool.
All right.
Welcome to Burger Deluxe. May I take your order?
Yeah, man. I'll have a pepperoni pizza and a meatball sub.
I'm sorry, sir. We don't serve pizza here.
Well, okay then, man. Well, then I'll just have the sub.
Leon, they don't have Italian food here.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, hey, man, let me get some fried chicken, man.
They don't have fried chicken either.
What have they got?
Burgers and fries. It's Burgers Deluxe.
Oh, why'd we come here?
Because you said you wanted to.
I did, didn't I?
Yes.
All right, man. Well, let me just get a burger and a fry.
One Burger Deluxe and one regular fry. $6.56.
Okay, Leon. $6.56.
Well, why are you telling me?
Don't tell me you don't have any money.
Okay.
You don't have any money?
Well, man, you told me not to tell you.
Oh, my.
Thank you very much. Come again.
Here, you're a pain in my ass, Leon.
Thanks, man.
What are you doing?
What's it look like I'm doing? I'm rolling up a joint. I like to smoke one before I eat, man. It makes the food taste better.
You've got 2 seconds to put that pot away.
Man, I tell you what, the next time that I need someone to come pick me up, man, and drive me somewhere and buy me some food, you're going to be the last person I call.
You know what? You're an idiot.
All right, we're back. On last month's show, the Atlanta Falcons were at 2-0. They had defeated the Chicago Bears, and they had defeated the Green Bay Packers and looked impressive beating Green Bay. They had games coming up, of course, with Detroit, with Buffalo, a week off, and then a game with the Miami Dolphins. Now, I predicted that the Falcons would win all 3 of these games, and boy, could I have not been more wrong. A squeaker in Detroit, but they did win the game. Then they come and play Buffalo and do not look good and are defeated. I had the displeasure of being at that game at the Mercedes-Benz Dome. And then they have a week off, and you think they're going to get it together, and then comes this Miami team that's not even averaging 20 points a game, and they come in, and the Falcons are leading 17-0 at halftime. It looks like we're back on track, and boom, we get beat 20-17. And the Falcons sit now at 3-2. Now, before you throw the baby out with the bathwater, let me remind you that last season, the Atlanta Falcons were 6-4 after 10 games, okay? So there is no need to panic, okay? But here are some things that are perfectly clear. This offense is not clicking. Right now, Matt Ryan is having the worst statistical season in his career, coming off an MVP year, this being his 10th year. That should not be happening. They can't run the ball consistently. They can't throw the ball consistently. This new offensive coordinator we have got, I don't think he knows, and somebody needs to tell him that the best player the Falcons have is Julio Jones. Did you know that we are 5 games into the season and Julio Jones has still not scored a touchdown? How is that possible? Okay? You need to start getting this guy the ball more and more often. You know, that's one thing that you can do. The defense has looked great at some times, and at other times they have not looked good. What cost them in this game this past Sunday was penalty. Grady Jarrett's stupid and uncalled for roughing the passer against Jay Cutler was able to let the Dolphins convert a key third down in a scoring situation. We had a pass interference call that we really didn't need to have that nullified an interception. The Falcons are just shooting themselves in the foot everywhere. Now, another thing is they can't get the top open on this dome. Now, let me tell you, Arthur Blank, you had it open for the first home game, and they won. The last 2 home games, you've had it closed, and they've lost. If I was you, I'd be figuring out a way to get that dome open. That's what I would be doing. Now, this Sunday night, the Atlanta Falcons will be traveling to Foxborough to face the New England Patriots. The following week, they will be going to New York to play the New York Jets. Now, this is bad news, and here is why. So far, the Falcons have played 2 AFC East teams and have lost to both of them. Okay? After that, they go on the road to face the Carolina Panthers, who at the beginning of the season did not look like a contender, but now they certainly do. And then they come home to face the Dallas Cowboys. It is not going to be an easy road. And let me tell you, the NFL this season has more parity in it than I have ever seen it. There is no rhyme or reason to who wins, who loses, by how much, or by how little. You know, the Falcons could win all 4 of these games. And if they did that, they would be sitting at 7-2. They could lose all 4 of these games easily. They could. They very well could. and then they would be at 3-6, and that would not be well. Or they could go 2-2 and be 5-4 and still be in the hunt. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say the Falcons are going to go 2-2. That's what I think. I don't know which two it'll be. I would like for one of them to be the New England game. The only good thing about the two losses that the Falcons have is that are against AFC East opponents and will not come into play in a tiebreaker situation. Is that Buffalo? Whatever. So, there's not a lot of excitement in the Dome. There's not a lot of noise. And it's just not a good situation. A lot of this, you'll be able to tell what the Falcons are made of this Sunday night when they go to New England to face Tom Brady and the New England Patriots. So here's the way I see it. The Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets, they have Wake Forest, Clemson, Virginia, Virginia Tech, and Duke. And I'm going to say that Georgia Tech is going to go 4-1 in these games. That's what I believe. The iffy game will be Clemson. And if that happens, then Georgia Tech will be sitting at 7-3 going into their last game against Georgia Tech. And it is exciting because we do have three really good teams here in the ATL this year, and that doesn't happen often. It just doesn't. When we come back, our closing commentary. Thanks.
Hey everybody, Johnny Van Zandt from Leonard Skinner here. Hey, come sail to Caribbean on the Southern Rock Cruise with all of our good friends. Hey, and we'll meet you over in Jamaica and play some Skinner for you. God bless.
All right, we're back. We're back here on the Chris Massey Football Show. We are here the third Monday of every month, and we will be here through the month of February, all the way up until after the Super Bowl is played. We appreciate you tuning in with us. We do. I am watching this on YouTube out there. Okay. I have planned a commentary tonight to talk more about the national anthem protests in the NFL, but I've got to tell you, I'm sick of it. I am just over it. I am tired of seeing people come on Facebook every Sunday thumping their chest saying they're not watching the NFL. And then when you read some of their posts, you realize that not only are they not watching it now, but they were never watching it to start with, for crying out loud. People that come on and support the players and their right to free speech and their First Amendment rights, they are attacked. It is a gigantic mess. That's what it is. And I do not know what the answer is. If I did, Roger Goodell would write me a big fat check. But anyway, what I want to talk about tonight is a statement that I see out there on Facebook and other people saying a lot. And that is people referring to NFL players as overpaid spoiled brats. Okay. Now, let me tell you something. The average American worker has no concept, no concept of the discipline, sacrifice, dedication, hard work, and work ethic it takes to become a professional athlete. They just don't. In a recent study with 1,000 business owners from all types of jobs in America, the consensus amongst these business owners is the average American worker is just looking to get by. Excellence is just something you shoot for. It's certainly not obtained. In America, if you're good at your job, well, that's good enough. That is not the way it is in the NFL. Let me ask you something. How would you like it at your job if every August your boss brought in somebody fresh out of college and they sat you down and they said, okay, here's the deal. You guys are going to compete for this job for the next 6 weeks, and then we're going to go with whoever's doing the best. Doesn't matter if you've got 5 years, 10 years, 15 years in the company. This happens every year. Let me tell you what, a lot of workers would have a nervous breakdown worrying about this situation every single year. Now, I'm not talking about everybody. I'm sure a lot of you out there are great at your job, strive to be the best. But I'm talking about the majority of the American workers, okay? Herschel Walker, who is arguably the greatest college football player of all time and certainly one of the greatest athletes of our day, when he was in high school at the age of 14, he used to start his morning every day with 100 push-ups and a mile run before he went to school. He then went to school, went to football practice, ran some more, and did another 100 push-ups before he did his homework every day. And this went on every single day. The training it takes to be an NFL athlete starts at a very young age in high school, okay? And it goes through college and into the pros. You think these guys just lay on the beach all summer and then they just show up in August to do their job? That's not the way it works. There are only 1,656 NFL jobs available for players in this country. And you have got to be one of the best. And you have got to stay at one of the best. You know, the diet and exercise program that these guys have, it's just unbelievable what they have to do. Now, the overpaid part, football players are not overpaid. The fact is that the NFL and the guys that own the teams, they generate plenty of revenue to pay these guys' salary. It doesn't cost the American taxpayer $1 for Matt Ryan to make $20 million a year. You don't have to go to the games. You don't have to buy merchandise. And you don't have to watch on TV. Unlike the Walmart Corporation, where American taxpayers pay $6 billion in government subsidies every year to Walmart employees because Walmart refuses to pay their employees a living wage. Meanwhile, their CEO makes $35 million a year. So the next time you talk about somebody being overpaid, be sure to include the CEO of Walmart in that conversation. And besides, every American out there, you can make the same money that professional athletes make. All you got to do is figure out a way to get 70,000 people to pay $100 a ticket and come to a stadium on Sunday and watch you do your job.